Graphical environments are very useful for connecting to the internet, editing documents, and videos. But not all systems, especially in the Linux world, have a graphical environment available. There are a number of resource constraints that may cause a user to not install a graphical environment on their systems. For example, the graphical environments are made up of many small applications, many of which start automatically and use a fair amount of memory and even some CPU. There are also security concerns. Many of the graphical applications are network-enabled and might expose the system to vulnerabilities accessed through those network capabilities. Many government agencies and financial institutions have restrictions that do not allow graphical installations at all on their secure servers. Just because you have a text-only environment does not mean that you have to type everything at a command line. You may still have some menu-driven applications. For example, let's take a look at the system configuration for the keyboard. There's a command called system-config-keyboard, which will launch a graphical environment if it's available, or if it's not available, we'll start up a text-based utility that is driven through the keyboard. The mouse usually does not work in these particular capabilities. I can use the arrow keys to make choices. I can use the tab key to switch on selections. If I look at the bottom of the screen, this particular utility happens to give me instructions that tell me that the spacebar will select things and the F12 will also move to the next screen, and to use tab to switch between elements. In some cases, I might use tab to switch to a text input box. In other cases, I might use the spacebar to select or deselect a checkbox associated with something. This particular application simply uses the arrows to highlight which keyboard choice I want, from which I can choose to say OK to make a change or cancel if I want to leave without any changes. Even if a graphical environment is available, another reason for using the command line interface is for automation and repetition. If I do the same tasks over and over, I'd like to script those tasks, which is not always an easy thing to do, if at all possible, with certain graphical applications. So automation is a key reason for using the command line interface. Repetition as well. For example, if I have many files which I want to change the name of, then I might want to use the command line instead of a graphical file browser. Here I have a directory. Perhaps I want to set up some templates to create numbers of chapters for books. I might use a command called touch, and I might create a number of files in a single command. I can do this because of using Bash shell expansion characters that keep me from having to type in the name for each case. I don't need to click and add a new file and then name it in each case. Perhaps instead of just the chapter name and number, I'd like to have a date associated with these versions. I can use a date command in order to view what the current date is, but date also allows me to specify a particular format. So perhaps I want to have the year, month, and day associated with my date, and I want to use this as part of the name of the file. I could make use of various mv or move commands to rename each individual file, or I can automate this through a script and some type of a for loop. I can do this at the command as well. I can do for a file in, and I can list all of them using something called command substitution. And for each of these files that I find, I want to move whatever that file is, and I want to instead have it be the file, but I want to have it with the date extension. And so I can make use of this date command, and here, since I am working in a graphical environment, I can make use of some copy-paste of my test command, and I can give it that date, and I can say done, and if I look at an LS now, they've all been renamed. I might do this at the command line, as I need to rename a number of files, or I might do this inside of a script. Basic format of a script is a batch file. So I have in a directory here a move files batch file. It simply echoes, press enter to continue, it accepts some input, so it'll actually prompt me through the process, creating directories, listing the contents, showing the date format, and renaming those files. Let's give this command a try. It's a bash shell, I can issue with the bash command. This is in and it set up the directories and showed the contents for me. And then it showed the date in a pretty format and renamed them. If I look at the contents of the directory, there are those files that have been renamed. My script actually deleted what I had done before and recreated it. This is the more common method of doing the automation. Much of your system startup scripts are scripts themselves. I can take a quick look here at a command that's used to start a network interface. It has a lot of conditionals associated with it, eventually calls various commands in order to set up the networking on the system. It's done automatically as you start the system or enable the network interfaces for that particular system. This is automation, and this is the power of the command line. Many people do not install a graphical environment at all due to resource constraints or security concerns. But even if they do have a graphical environment, they still are looking for automation and repetition through scripts. The building blocks to those scripts are the various commands that you do on a daily basis interactively, the command line, which we will look at throughout this course.